Hi, good afternoon. It's Mark Wilkinson here, live from London. We are live across 8 different platforms using StreamYard. Plenty of my own platforms on my Facebook groups, my LinkedIn and my YouTube channel. Plus the added bonus on a Friday afternoon of going live across my publishers' publishers' pages, I should say, on Facebook. So one group and one Facebook page. So we're reaching out really far around the globe here. So it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in London. It's the morning, obviously, in Canada and America, and it's the late evening in Asia. So we've got a great reach across the globe here. This is a wonderful thing. We do call it Fearless Friday. And it's very much about, today we're going to talk about overcoming fears. We're going to talk about how fear can stop us and how things can get us going. And certainly I've got a couple of guests that are going to join me today. They're both from my publisher, Hasmark Publishing. So we're going to have Vicky joining us. She's in marketing, and we've got Jenna, who's a project manager, a book project manager. So if you've got any questions for these two wonderful ladies, you're more than welcome to fire them at myself and Vicky and Jenna. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation. It's targeted at overcoming fears, but of course, you know, authors and potential authors, certain people in the Hasmark group, etc. Ask questions, be involved. Let us know anything that you would like to know, and we're here to help and to have a good discussion. But if you want to be a part of the stream, I can actually put your comments, all your questions onto the screen so that we can all attempt to answer them for you, which I'm sure we will. So let me bring in two wonderful people. Let me bring in Vicky first and foremost. Hello, Vicky. How are you?
Good morning, afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, it's morning. It's morning for you, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, okay, great. and then moving very far outside of her comfort zone, let's bring Jenna in as well. Hello, Jenna.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for saying that right away, that I'm very nervous. I'm good, thank you.
Just imagine it's a conversation just between the three of us.
That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can't see anybody,
just focus
so
on
it's
us,
great.
and that's it, right?
There aren't hundreds of thousands of people.
Okay, don't tell her that.
There's going to be lots of interest in this, because I'm really glad that you're both with me, because obviously you both work at Hasmark and are part of the Hasmark family. We've got some great people already joining us and leaving comments and stuff like that already, which is great. So Vicky, why don't you go first? Why don't you just give us a little overview of what you're doing at Hasmark and your role and how you make things happen?
So I'm literally just 2 weeks in with Hasmark, and I'm helping them with the marketing. So sort of twofold: working with the clients, our authors, helping them. Some of our clients don't have a lot of knowledge about marketing and how to market themselves and how to get their book out there. And then there's Mark, who is really awesome at getting out there and talking about the book and promotion. And then also promoting Hasmark itself as the, #1 publishing company. So that's my role for now. Who knows? It'll change, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, all good roles in any company, they all develop, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I learned very quickly in how to be successful was to add more value. Just keep adding more value. And Bob Proctor, who you can see behind me there, obviously has endorsed Life Remixed, and he always says, leave people with the impression of increase and make sure that you're doing more than you're being paid for. Many people won't do that.
Right.
Many people won't do it. But actually, if you do more than you're being paid for willingly, you end up earning more money anyway. So, and it works in any business, in any concept, in any way. I found it very, very helpful. So it was a good piece of advice that I got. So I know how much value you're adding, Vicky, which is why I say it. So.
Well, thank you.
But thank you for that. And Jenna, hello, Jenna.
Hello.
What's going on with you? So tell us a bit more about you, what you're doing. Your project management for books.
Yeah, so I am in charge of the process of the book. So I take all of the authors and I bring them from start to finish. So I take them from the beginning with their manuscript through editing, cover design, proofreading, layout, publishing the actual book, as well as everything in between there. So all the little projects that go into that as well. But I basically see it when it comes to us just as the manuscript to the actual book, which is really exciting. And there's a lot of books at all times. So we're constantly on the go, both Vicky and I.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I thought I heard a discussion the other day, something like 40 books or something all.
Yes, around 40 right now, I would say.
40 books is like you're spinning some plates, aren't you? Hoping that none of them fall down. You know, it's kind of like, that's amazing. And in all honesty, being one of those 40 books that are floating around at the moment, I mean, you haven't missed a beat with us. I mean, you've been absolutely fantastic. I can't thank you enough, to be honest. Both of you, you know. We got some lovely Hasmark Publishing saying hello, team. That's nice. And hello, Mark, Jenna, and Vicky. Hello, everyone. You're all looking great. Clearly, that's lovely. Thank you so much. And Andrew's watching the one later, and Alan is saying good afternoon and morning. You can see that on the screen, right, ladies? Yeah, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great. So anyone who wants to leave us a comment or ask a question around anything that we're going to talk about today, please do. We're going to stay here for as long as it takes. Jenna's feeling good. She's up for it. So look, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about fears today and overcoming fears. Jenna's moving outside of her comfort zone to be here, like I said. Vicky's feeling nice and comfortable about the whole thing, which is great. But
I would say I'm comfortable, but I'm good.
Okay. You wouldn't say you're comfortable, but you're here and you're doing it. You feel quite relaxed about it, right?
Yeah.
Good. Actually, just one thing before we carry on. What's the temperature where you two are at the moment?
You don't want to know.
No, I do.
Right.
It was minus 22 with the wind chill when I got up this morning.
Minus 22?
It's still minus 22 with the wind chill right now. It's minus 16.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. It's a little bit brisk, as we say in England.
Yeah, you've got a little bit of an English accent there as well.
I do, yeah. I'm from Nottingham and grew up in Christchurch, but I've been here 30 years, so. Wow,
but you haven't lost the English twang in there.
It's because I'm talking to you and it comes out.
me and my Cockney accent. Yeah. So
where are you in England?
My London Cockney accent. Judy's just saying, love StreamYard, #Fearless Friday. Lovely. Someone shared my favourite website is my own one. Well, of course. And Alan, my friend Alan is saying, Jenna, you look very composed. So that's
Thank you. You can't see my hands are sweaty. I probably shouldn't have just said that to a lot of people.
But that's okay.
No, that's fine. So yeah, okay. So it's minus a lot where you are, and it's only about 1 degree here. It's still lockdown. It's still difficult times. There's a lot of people struggling, isn't there, with this whole kind of scenario that we're going through. I do believe there's light at the end of the tunnel. I do believe that there's opportunities to be able to look to the future. But we came on here about fears, and Vicky, I think you had something that was on your mind about fears regarding me. You heard me say something previously, right?
Yeah, when we talked earlier this week, you had made a comment about how you were terrified of speaking in front of people, which completely surprised me because you're always so composed and so engaging whenever you're live. And I wanted to ask you about that and how you've overcome your fears and whether you have and what your tactics are to overcome your fears.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great question. It's funny. I think the more you do something, obviously, the more repetition is mastery. So the more you do it, the more you're going to get better at it. I would say that I started to learn to play records when I was like 16, DJing, mixing records together. And I continued doing that. And that became quite easy because it was about the music. And although I learned the skill of actually playing and, mixing records together and blending records together, I learned that skill quite quickly. And what I've since, with the benefit of hindsight, it's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But with the benefit of hindsight, I've managed to look back and actually understand that music was like, it was almost like that was my protection. It was like if I could play the music and the people danced and it was all good and the party was great and everything else, I didn't actually then have to actually sort of come out from behind the music, if you like. And when it wasn't like I was a talking DJ on the radio or anything like that. It was like we mixed records together. It was almost seen as uncool to be one of those DJs that was talking on the radio. So I literally just naturally just fell into this, and it fed me well enough, but it fed into my fears, if you like, that I could just play music and that would be my barrier. And I love the film The King's Speech. I absolutely love the film The King's Speech. I mean,
great movie. Yeah.
What a fantastic film that is. And there's a great moment. I watch these kind of films back. I watch The King's Speech back. I watch The Shawshank Redemption back and stuff like that. And it's about, coming through dark places and in Shawshank Redemption, coming out into the light. And with The King's Speech, there's that bit where he's stuttering at the beginning, and you're like, oh no, it's so painful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's looking at the front of the microphone, and it's all like, he's trembling, but I know that feeling. I genuinely know that feeling. And it's an interesting point, because the fear of public speaking, in a survey some years ago, you can find this on Google, the fear of public speaking was actually came above the fear of death to most people. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but it wouldn't surprise me, because everybody has a fear of speaking. And I think for me, it's comes down to a feeling of value and worth. Do people want to hear my voice? What I have to say? Is my message important enough to say it? And I think for me, that's where that fear comes from.
So that's really great to actually become aware of that, because it's not really a fear of public speaking. It's actually a fear of, am I enough? Or it's also a fear of criticism, perhaps.
Yes.
People criticizing you, or a fear of judgment. Exactly.
Yep, definitely.
Exactly, Jenna. And it's so important, I think, to understand that. People will say, "Oh, it's a fear of public speaking," so that's my problem, and it's not really the issue. The issue is deeper, and I think we've just touched on all three of those kind of deeper fears that actually can impact upon us. And Bob Proctor says fear can stop you faster than a speeding bullet. And it's true, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yes.
True. I mean, Jenna, I know I've encouraged you this week to come on for this and be here. You could have, if you'd allowed your fear to overtake you.
I could have said no. I could have called in sick today.
Yeah, and in some ways that would have been a sickness. Yeah, it would have been a sickness, because fear will stop you doing things, right?
Definitely.
And what about our other authors? Have you got like a message for some of our other authors that are watching? Because I think it's important that I've clearly grabbed the bull by the horns. We'll talk more about that in a bit, right? But some of the other authors that are watching, have you got Jenna, have you got a message for them?
Yeah, I do. I think that if someone like me that tells other authors to go out and be fearless on like Fearless Friday and public speaking, if someone like me is not able to do it, then I don't think that I should be saying that at all. And I don't think that's very fair. And something that Judy always says is that only writing and publishing the book is only 5% of the process. And then the other 95% is this part where you are marketing the book and doing that extra mile. So if it were to stop at that 5%, then your book doesn't really go anywhere, and you're not showing the world, and they don't even have the chance to judge you or actually see what you have to offer. Exactly. And so if they're stopping at that point, then I think that they are letting that fear take over them. So I think that us being able to show that we are able to do those things too, because I'm always in the background, but I'm never on the forefront of this. So I think it's really important to show that this is what the next step is.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, and you've stepped up completely today, and Vicky and I are very, very grateful to have you here.
Definitely, yeah.
In fact, wow, the fear of overcoming public speaking is ranked higher than the fear of death. You can Google that. Don't do it now because we're talking about it. But afterwards, you can Google it. It was definitely in the UK. And it was definitely a study that was done, and more people voted for that they had a fear of public speaking than they did of dying. Which is incredible when you think about it, really. We've got another message. Jenna, you're doing great. Jenna, you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
My friend John is on LinkedIn. He's saying, well done, Jenna. Excellent. Overcoming fear. Ariane says, hi, Mark. Excellent. Ariane's here. Ariane works with us here over this side on Life Remixed, and she's wonderful. So it's really great to have her here. Alan's got a question for us as well. Does public speaking make you a better author? What do you reckon, Vicky?
Yes, because it helps you to hone in on what your message is, what you want to say. So I think it does. The more you talk about something, the easier it is. You can find your words. So yes, I think it does.
Jenna, what do you reckon?
I agree. I think that, like I said, if you write the book and publish it, that's kind of it. But if you go the extra mile to do the public speaking, to promote your book, and to go a little bit further, then I do think that it does make you a better author, because you are honing in on that message that you're trying to show the world.
It's a really good point from both of you. Yeah, because my initial response would have been, well, it doesn't make you a better writer as such. It doesn't make you a better writer, but actually you make a very good point that you're going to write more than one book, we hope, right? You're going to keep coming back. You're going to keep writing. It's not just one book, one hit wonder. It's actually like, let's write a book and then let's go out. I mean, Alan knows me from the DJ days. Alan used to come into the record shop when I used to work in the vinyl record shop many years ago. Alan, the way I liken this is when I was younger, I was a DJ and a record producer, and I made records, and then people heard my records throughout the week, or different shops all over the globe, and then they booked me to go and DJ on the weekend because they'd heard my records. It's exactly the same process that I'm going through right now. And it was quite funny when I first signed up with Hasmark and was like, right, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. And we had various meetings. And I think it was Danielle and a couple of other team members said, right, Mark, so now you need to get on a video and you need to start being seen, and you need to go for it. And I was a bit like, oh no. And I remember I did my first Fearless Friday in the Hasmark group, which we're live in right now across 8 platforms, including the Hasmark group of just the authors. And I did my first live, and I was nervous and rubbish and all over the shop, really, to be honest. I hope they've deleted it, actually. I need to double check that back to October, make sure it's get rid of that one. But the point is that it was nerve wracking, and then as soon as the camera went on, I was a bit like, oh, what do I say? What do I talk about? But there's tying it back to the King's Speech. I have a voice. Yeah, you remember that bit at the end of the film? That bit at the end of the film where he stands up and he goes, I have a voice. He managed to get over his stuttering. And the doctor, the Australian doctor, says, yes, Bertie, you do. And I think that's I'm getting goosebumps while I'm saying it to you. But it's so important, because you do have a voice. And you two being here today, myself, anyone else who's watching, you're completely unique. No one else has a voice like you. No one else has a message like you. Only I could write Live Remixed. Only you could write your book. And I think that the more that people sort of step up and actually grasp this and go for it, I think it's wonderful. I've got a few other facing fears. I said about Bob Proctor and fear will stop you faster than a speeding bullet. And it was Roosevelt, I think, wasn't it, who said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I think that was misunderstood by some people. What do you think about that, Vicky?
I think that's exactly it. Like, all fears. I've got my head wrapped around here. I haven't had my coffee this morning. You'll have to bear with me.
You're doing fine. There's only a few thousand people watching.
Right? Yeah, definitely. The only thing to fear is fear itself, because it's not the thing you're afraid of. It's actually that feeling of fear, right? That's what you don't want to feel like that. So yes, that's what you're fearing.
It's not really real, is it? It's not really real.
It's all in your head.
Yeah. It's not really real. It's, the building is just the building, and the path is just the path, and the computer is just the computer. And you can just make it up, basically. It's like a made up thing in your mind. The human beings, it's almost like a nightmare pill. I remember, I've forgotten his name in The Secret. One of the guys in The Secret, Michael Beckwith in The Secret. He said the human beings have taken like a nightmare pill that, there's not enough. And we're all going to it's all going to be a nightmare. And we've all got things to be afraid of. And, I suppose there's a whole other piece about fear and control, isn't there? Because if you get people scared enough, you can control them a bit easier, perhaps.
Well, we've seen a lot of that in North America, in the US, in politics. We won't get into that, but that whole
you know what I mean,
fear, also with COVID as well. Like there's so much fear mongering in the news and the media right now that we're kind of feeding off this, and that's why we need, people like yourself to start shifting that and bringing a more positive vibe out. So
I'm on a mission.
Kick fear to the curb.
I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to bring as much joy as I possibly can to as many people in the world. And my fears took me down. My fears overcame the positivity of DJing and the music and everything else. My doubt and fear and worry and anxiety actually took me down to basically unable to walk and bankrupt and just in pieces. And it was not a good time. It was not a good time for me. And those fears overtaking can really, impact upon the body. Debilitating. Yeah, exactly. Impact upon the body. So, particularly Jenna at a young age, stay strong. Don't know those fears. Okay, here's a good one.
Can I just go back to a comment that you made? You wanted to take down that first Fearless Friday video.
Oh,
no. Keep it there because you can go back to it and go, wow.
See what
look
Judy
how
said.
far I have come.
Look what Judy said on the screen. Can you see?
we had at my old company, we had our boss always say something along the lines of the similar quote, but it was get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it was basically that if you never do anything that you're scared of, and if you never progress, then you're going to stay exactly where you are. So you have to always be doing something that makes you feel that fear or that uncomfortable feeling. And I think that's very similar to the fear itself. And I
love the quote, what if I fall, but darling, what if you fly?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
I often when there's a few what ifs flying around in my life and stuff like that, I almost say I'd like to ban those two words, what if. But actually, Vicky, you make a great point. You can still use the what if, but you can use them actually as
in a positive. What if you fly?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I've got a great quote here from Jim Morrison. I was looking up quotes on fear as a bit of preparation for us, and Jim Morrison. Obviously with my musical background and stuff like that, it was quite an interesting one. He said, expose yourself to your deepest fear. After that, fear has no power, and the fear of freedom shrinks and vanishes. You are free. It's really true, that.
Pretty powerful.
It's powerful stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I was exposed to my greatest fear: unable to walk, suicidal, and no money. Those are my greatest fears in life, and I was exposed to all three of them in my mid to late 30s. But I'm not afraid of them anymore because I've seen them, and I'm like, yeah, right, it's not.
Done that. Got the t-shirt.
Exactly right. I kicked his butt. But the point is that you bounce back from these things, and I think it's the most successful people. Really successful people. I mean, Bob doesn't like to talk about it a lot himself. He doesn't share huge amounts of his story. But I know I picked up a couple of times that he said that he rock bottomed out a couple of times in his life. And those were moments that absolutely changed his perspective. And I mean, you look at him, 86 years young, doing wonderful stuff. We've got a message for you here, Vicky. You're doing great, Vicky. There you go. That's from someone. And there we go. Yeah, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Or as I post, it's what if I fail, but what if I fly? That's exactly right. Look, nothing of note was ever discovered or made in a comfort zone, was it?
Exactly.
Nope. And get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think is a wonderful message because the more you work outside your comfort zone and actually do something more, and you have to ask yourself sometimes, actually, is this a bit too comfortable for me? How am I going to stretch myself a bit more? And I didn't quite finish what you asked me, Vicky, actually, and I've just realised. I still have a bit of a fear of public speaking, particularly in front of a group of people, as in a live audience. I still get a bit of the, dry mouth and a bit like, oh, it's still there. It's still there, I promise you. And in some ways, COVID has actually been interesting for me because obviously I've written this book and released it and everything at an exact moment. Life Remixed is coming out at an exact moment when the world is going or trying to recover from a crisis, when I've written a book about how to recover from a crisis, from over the last 10 or 12 years. I mean, talk about timing. However, the other part of this as well is the fact that although I've been on stages with Kevin Green here to 500 of his audience and talked about my testimony of working with Kevin and moving on up in the world and recovering from bankruptcy and incurable disease and everything else, I've still been quite nervy when I've been doing it. It's not a really comfortable experience for me. And what I'm finding is actually that doing these, if you believe in the universe and you believe in everything happens exactly as it should and the laws are correct and everything works perfectly, this in my life is perfect, because at the end of the day, what I'm learning to do is actually have a message. And thank you for your kind words at the start. I'm learning to have a message. I'm learning to develop that message, and I'm doing it, if you like, from the comfort zone, from the comfort zone of my own desks and my own house and everything else. To quite, we had 35 people on a call the other day. I'm looking to expand that. I think we're going to have a few hundred people on calls, in the coming weeks. I feel quite comfortable with that now. And then the next step, this is what we thought, the next step outside the comfort zone, the next step will be, we'll book a venue in London and we'll have 100 people there. And then we'll have 300 and 500, however many people there, right? But again, every single time, it's going to be like a step forward, a step forward, a step forward, outside of this comfort zone. So I think it's important to acknowledge that. And I wanted to let you know that was the truth. It's
baby steps, right? Yeah. And I think that's what we need to let the authors know from Hasmark, or anyone who's trying to put a book together and get the word out. It is baby steps, and you were forced to do it within the confines of COVID, and it allowed you to actually have those baby steps. But yeah, just take it one at a time. And the more you do it, you will get more comfortable. Exactly. You may never get rid of all your fears. Like you say, you still get the dry mouth. I'm nervous when I talk to people, but I just kind of, this is what I have to do, and I will move on and get it done.
I think what will happen once I've got a PowerPoint and a live remix presentation and I'm ready to start honing this message actually into something that I can present to people so they can read the book, but they can actually then come to an event or something like that. The more that I do it, the more that I'll practice it, the better it will get, And
Absolutely. None of us are born an expert.
No. I read a great thing from Louise Hay where she said when she was learning to public speak, after she'd been an actress for 20 years, she went through some changes and then actually became, a wonderful author and helping loads of people. But every time she walked off stage, she didn't berate herself and say, "Oh, you were awful, it was terrible." And, she actually went like, "Well done, that's excellent. You really made a step forward today." Being kind to yourself is really, really.
Oh, that's so important. Be gentle with yourself.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And if Jenna can overcome this and be here today, then all of our Hasmark authors can do this, can't they, Jenna?
It's just a small step forward, and I think that's important because you need to keep doing those things to move forward. So I think that's really important.
Well, I think for a child, the child tries to stand up on its, the first time it tries to stand up, and guess it falls down. It's like, oh, and so, but you don't berate the child for not being able to stand up for the first time, do you? You go, okay, try again, and it's it's about continuing that improvement all the time. We've got some lovely quotes coming in here. As the publisher of so many authors, one of the most satisfying parts of our business is seeing those authors, who they become. We often see authors crash through their terror barrier to absolutely own their message. Have you seen that? Have you seen many authors come through, Jenna, that have kind of, inspired you to be here today, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. You for one of them. I would say you were the greatest example so far because we are now streaming to so many people. But I think that it's really great to see how many, and almost all of them come through, and at the beginning they don't want to even have a Facebook, or they don't even want to be posting anything, but going from something like that to actually going live on Fearless Friday, and going beyond that to podcasts and interviews and those similar things, that is amazing to see. Just stepping out of their comfort zone and then going on from that is incredible.
And I think once you get your feet, once you like the baby, once you find your feet, then you're off. And like
then they're running.
Just shut me up, somebody. But I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. But so we've got Judy says life begins where fear ends from Osho, and that's Osho's got some fantastic teachings. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Yeah, my life began the day that I collapsed, which is chapter 1 of Life Remixed. The day that I collapsed was when I started to learn about fear, and overcoming fear and facing these things. And a good friend of mine, Heather Thatcher, says perfect timing, Mark. So that's brilliant. That just is obviously what she's talking about, Life Remixed, but also this Fearless Friday as well, and actually talking about overcoming these challenges. Gossie is saying, hi, Mark, great subject. Thank you. That's awesome. And she also says people fear to be judged, hence it stops them moving forward despite the potential they have. It's very, very true. I mean, I heard a great quote about observation is power and judgment is weakness. And when I say that to my coaching clients, you can sort of see them thinking it through, and they're like, how much time do I spend judging other people? And certainly, if it got anything by my experience, it would be quite a lot when I was younger. But as soon as I stopped judging other people, when I was told it was a weakness, I was like, right, okay, I'm going to stop doing that then. And as soon as I stopped doing it, I started to observe everybody without judgment. And what it did was it actually made loads of space for creativity. It made loads of space without all that jibber jabber and mental noise going on in my mind. It was kind of like, I was like, oh, right. So I'll write a book. Oh, maybe I'll do something. So I think it's a really, really important point. My friend Matt here says there are only 2 types of public speakers in the world: the nervous ones and the liars.
I like that one.
My friend Matt is brilliant. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I think everybody's nervous, especially when they stand up in front of people. When I used to, I said on a live the other day that I chose a job when I was told that about overcoming. I think it was Bob said everything you want is just the other side of your greatest fear. And I was like, well, I know what I want and I know what I want to achieve in this life. And my biggest fear is public speaking or, being judged, all the stuff we touched on earlier. And I was like, right, okay, so I need to overcome this. So I stood up in front of 100 builders at a time, sometimes at Heathrow Airport, delivering the health and safety inductions. Trust me, when you've got a crowd of disinterested builders and you're trying to do an hour speech, it's pretty tough. But we get through it, and Matt did it for me a few times as well, and it's pretty nerve-wracking. But also, once you can start to get better and better at it, it's really uplifting. And, I think you two are going to get some great feedback, obviously, from today as well. We're just getting wonderful speaker. I think they're talking about you two with that one. I think.
So, Jenna, are you going to do this again? Are you feeling a little less nervous?
A little less. Exactly. I feel like it was just about coming on, and then as soon as I was here, just having this conversation with you guys is a lot. It's not scary. It's just the process of getting on here is the scary part.
And I think it's easier in this format because you almost have a cushion of other people.
I can't see anybody watching.
And you can't see anyone. But I think it's more nerve-wracking. And Mark, you can speak to this more. When you first started doing the Fearless Fridays and when you were doing a live Facebook Live and it was just the one platform, now you're streaming across 8 platforms. How did you get over, or did you find there was a real fear or nervousness of it? I'm just looking at myself and I'm talking and I have no idea who's out there and who's listening and are they judging me and what are they thinking about me? Did you feel it when you first started?
One of the things I struggled with, I did a lot of radio with DJing and mixing and stuff like that and a bit of talking, etc. But I never felt particularly comfortable being a radio DJ because I'd be sitting on my own in a room playing some records, talking to a microphone, but trying to pretend that there was more people with me. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And it wasn't something I was particularly great at. And that's why I don't think I ever made much of a career in radio as such. But certainly this platform and the way the internet is now, you can see I've got this light coming off. I've got this light coming off a window, and I can't move away from it. The sun's on it, it's coming right onto this light. The Blues Brothers. I have seen that light. Anyway, so what I was going to say was that this platform, certainly using like StreamYard or any of these kind of live platforms that you can use, it makes it so much easier. because I can see how many people are watching. I've got all the wonderful comments here. I can see myself, and that took a little bit of getting used to. But once I got used to it, I was kind of like, yeah. And I started to be kind to myself. I was like, okay, you look good. Okay, you're sounding okay. You just keep practicing and practicing and practicing. And the more I got comfortable with it, the better it's become. And now I'm literally live 6 times a week now. I'm doing 6 times a week, and it's really great. We've got a few more questions coming in. Alan's saying, I've started creative writing. I've started writing and have a blog. I'm at the early stages, always looking for mentors. I want to get into more creative writing. We'll hopefully do a course. I always thought creative writing was a natural thing. That's a brilliant question, Alan, and really good. I think you've got to make sure that you've got to be natural. I'd say you've got to be natural. It's got to be you. It's got to be your voice. I'll happily talk to you about this on a separate catch-up, Alan, as well, if you want to. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. There are some wonderful, Peggy McCall does some wonderful courses for authors, and it's certainly something I could point you in the right direction as well, Alan. But I think you've got to get organised. Emma got me organised. I was always a bit all over the place. And Emma said to me, right, sit down, here's the structure, populate this, make it happen. And then that actually somehow has turned into a 14-chapter book. So I think it's, a lot of the time it's quite, the creatives can always not be the most organized. Would you find that?
Yeah, because our brains are all over the place as a creative. I feel like that, I'm a computer with 16 tabs open at any given time. And where the heck is that music coming from? I love Neil Gaiman. Just to answer or respond to what Alan's comment is, and he always says, make good art. Doesn't matter what it is. Just create, do it, whatever it is. Write a page, paint something, make something, cook something, whatever it is. Just do it. No judgment. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're creating for creation's sake. And I think that's a really important point for anyone who is starting out. Just do it.
Yeah.
I think you also mentioned earlier that when you stopped judging and having judgment, that really opened up to your creativity. So I think that taking that negativity out of your life or out of your thoughts is always the first step.
Definitely.
And then the second would also be to have an Emma, because everybody needs an Emma.
Everybody needs an Emma. Oh, she's probably dancing. She's probably dancing right now about that one. Yeah. That was what's quite funny about that is that I had a book coach and mentor here in the UK. Will, he's a fantastic guy, been published on Hay House, and he coached me through my process. And he said that his book took him about 3.5 years to write. And he said it was a little bit all over the place, a little bit like what Vicky was saying. There was so much happening. He said there was so much going on. He said, but I didn't have an Emma. Exactly what you said. He said, I didn't have an Emma. And then that's what he said. Everybody needs an Emma. And she's now taken that and put it on her website and everything. It's like genius.
Amazing.
Brilliant. So Judy's saying, Jenna's making a very valid point. I always find that is the fear of getting on stage, but once on, my fear calms. I've said that to many famous, I heard that said by many famous actors and actresses. I would say the same thing with DJing as well, to an extent, although I got very, very comfortable in the DJ booth at one point. And I think that's when I started to get a bit bored, but then I didn't grow. I just stayed in the comfort zone. I think that was the problem. I stayed in the comfort zone of DJing because I got money for it and I could party and it fed my addictions and everything else. And I didn't actually grow. And this whole process is definitely making me grow. John says we've got 2 fears, a fear of falling and loud noises. All other fears are learned. That's an interesting one, John. I'm going to. I've got something interesting here about this as well, because sometimes we always say that like fear is like a. Some of us will say that fear might be a bad thing, and it's quite an interesting point. It's another quote that I dug out yesterday. It says, "From the time we're infants, we are equipped with the survival instincts necessary to respond with fear when we sense danger or we feel unsafe. Fear helps protect us. It makes us alert to danger and prepares us to deal with it." So fear has a message, right? It has a message for something, but it's this. We've got these irrational ones that will stop us achieving. When it's fair enough if you've got a tiger that's after you, you might want to be careful and run away, but that doesn't happen very often, right? And I think that fear does have a message, but overcoming those fears is what is how we grow. That's where we get to, right? Everyone should have an Emma or a Jenna.
Thank you, Judy.
And Jenna makes a great point. Fixing, correcting your self-talk is the first thing to do. That's exactly right. Be kind to yourself, and then you'll start to feel more confident. I hope that I hope this is helpful for lots of the authors. Is there anything that you guys would like to? Anything else you guys would like to come in with? I
think you covered all of the notes that I wrote from before, so I don't have much left to say, but I think that it is very important just to take that first step.
I just want to say I had a lot of fun. I want to do this again.
We could do this anytime you like. I'll be back I'm going to be back every Friday at 3 p.m. for Fearless Fridays. I've really enjoyed it. I know that there's going to be some other Hasmark authors that are going to come on and join us. And the point is that this technology is available to anyone. You can start to stream across. I mean, I'm fortunate in some respects that I was a DJ, so that I've got like followings on 10,000 on this page and 10,000, 5,000 and everything else. But certainly for people that are starting out from scratch, you need to build your social media. You need to build social media. You need to build a platform that people can then start to connect with you. Obviously I found that through music. Do you find, you mentioned earlier, some of the authors don't even necessarily have that kind of skill set at this stage. Is that something that we coach them on as well throughout the Hasmark process?
Yeah, definitely give them guidance and help them understand the different platforms, what they do, and how to get their message across, and give them tools to go ahead and create things for themselves as well. So it's about guiding them, right? It's not doing it for them, but giving them tools to do it themselves and be successful. Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, I wasn't. I haven't really been given anything as such, apart from obviously great support. But I bought my own light ring to make myself look a bit brighter. I bought my own beautiful podcast and microphone. I got my professional StreamYard thing up. I set it up with all the things now connected with you guys even more, and we're going across the 2 Hasmark pages as well as everything else that I do anyway. I mean, it's down to you, isn't it? It's down to, someone said to me once, responsibility is the key to freedom. And the more responsible you are for your own results and your own actions and everything else, then the happier you're going to be, because you know that it's only down to you. It's not down to anybody else. And I think putting out a book is the ultimate on that, because you're putting out a book, it's kind of like it's only down to me, isn't it? But I've got like 20 people now working, I'd say, on this whole project. Anne is saying, got to get his book. Thank you, Anne. That's very nice of you. I really appreciate that. Mark's book, Life Remix, launches in 9 days' time. I'm also going to tell you something else, very honest, right now. There's little moments where it's becoming so real now. We ordered a few hundred copies yesterday from the author copies that Jenna helped me through. And they're about to turn up in the next week or so. I'm going to sign them all and send them out, and that's going to be a great moment. But it's so real now. It's kind of, I'll be straight up with you. There's little moments where I sort of go, ooh.
What have I done?
What am I, I'm just putting this out into the world and seeing what happens. And we don't know, do we? It might do a few thousand copies and be great. It might do a few million copies and go across the world and be translated into like 10 languages. I don't know. None of us really know, do we? We just put it out there and we're doing all the marketing and doing everything we can to help people. And the message is real. The message is, look, there's ways and means for you to recover from a crisis. And here's some to think about and work on yourselves. And I think that's the exciting bit for me, is that, I think not everyone's going to love it. I was talking to Peggy the other week, and Peggy was saying that there's quite a few, when she started getting haters online and everything, she was like, yes.
You've made it when.
Yeah. Well, you only have to think about, I don't want to think about the American election, but any election, 50% or 55% of the country loves someone, and the other 45% love someone else, and they don't like that one. You're not going to please everybody.
You're not chocolate.
don't waste a moment. Don't waste a moment thinking about the people that are not going to like. I mean,
exactly.
J.K. Rowling. Apparently, J.K. Rowling on her Harry Potter books. If you look on her Amazon, there's loads of people like slagging her off and saying it's awful and what a terrible book. Does she care? Probably. No. She's probably all right. So yeah, I mean, look, it's really interesting. It's a fascinating process. We're all human beings. We all have these kind of things to work on, don't we? Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really grateful for you two for joining this today. Like I say, we could probably carry on for ages, but what we'll do is maybe we'll think up another subject or two for the coming weeks, and I'm looking forward to some of the Hasmark authors reaching out and wanting to join us, because
definitely, yeah.
Why not? We'll see if we can get Judy on perhaps as well, and Dave and a few of the other team members as well. But I think today, we need to pay maximum respect to Jenna.
Thank you.
She's the one who's moved the furthest out of her comfort zone today, and you've had lots of love. People are.
Thank you. Well, I needed you two to help, but
you're awesome.
Yeah, but the point is that's how it starts. We've planted a little seed for you today, and you go, actually, it wasn't
too bad.
No.
Most of the things we fear, like we make. I'm sure there was a story I heard the other day. It was an old man who's like, he's on his deathbed. He's talking to his son, and he said, "I've had a great deal of trouble in my life. I've had a great deal of trouble. None of it actually happened." Because most of the things we worry about, most human beings, we spend so much time worrying, and most of it doesn't happen. I mean, you need to think about the, irrational fears. People will worry about the fear of flying, but they're more likely to die driving a car. And so,
exactly.
But you have this fear of like flying, so there's some things that
it comes back to control. You're controlling a car, so there's no fear of it. You have no control of that plane. You are at the mercy of that pilot at the front in the cockpit.
But there'd still be a passenger in a car, wouldn't they? There'd still be a passenger.
True, yeah.
Well, but yeah, I do take your point completely. Yeah, I mean, I remember this is one of those moments as well when you overcome a fear. I remember being on an aeroplane. I was on the red eye. I was flying. I didn't put this story in Life Remixed actually. I think I need to put another book together of all the mad stories that are out there. I put some of the stories in Life Remixed. I DJ'd in Belgrade. And it was a good gig. It was a good gig, but it finished at 4 or 5 in the morning. And I went straight to the airport, and I got on this plane at 6:30 in the morning. We called it the red eye. Literally you're getting on the red eye on the plane. You haven't had any sleep. You're like, oh god. And you get on. As I went to get on, it was so old and dirty, this plane. And it was Air Yugoslavia, or what it was, Air Serbia. It might have been at the time. And you could see it had scratched out on the fuselage of the plane. It said like Yugoslav Olympic team, like 1948 or 1954. Or so. I remember looking at it thinking, that looks a bit dodgy. I got on the plane and I sat down and I sat in my chair, and I literally, because I was on the red eye, no sleep, like I'm out. I'm starting to go to sleep. And the plane took off, and I'm like still half asleep, And about 45 minutes into the flight, I came round and I opened my eyes, and I felt something was a bit wrong. I was like, this is something doesn't quite feel right. And then I felt the plane was sort of going, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, this felt like the plane was struggling, basically. It's a big plane. It's like there's 150 people on this plane, And I felt it struggling. I was thinking, like, this is not good. And then I started to look around, and I could see, no one else spoke English as far as I knew. And I couldn't see any stewardesses or anything like that. And there was people panicking. I could see the panic in all these people. It was really weird, but, panic in a foreign language, and they're all like, and I was thinking, like, oh my God, because we've been up for an hour or so, 45 minutes to an hour. We could be over the mountains. We could be over the Alps.
The Alps, yeah.
We could be anywhere. And all I can see is cloud, and we're in a plane that's struggling. And I remember I had this fear. This fear went all the way through me, and I was like, oh no. And exactly your point, Vicky. I was like, I can't do anything about this. I'm completely out of control at this moment. There is nothing I can do. I'm here on this plane. And I remember sitting there and they didn't make any announcements. There wasn't a word. And then I could start to feel the plane start to descend. And I'm thinking, oh, so we're going to go through the cloud. And I'm looking out the window and I'm holding on for dear life. I don't know what I'm holding for. What's the point of that? But holding on for dear life. And as we dropped down out of the clouds, we came down and we were literally about 250 feet off the ground, and we're heading for a field. So at least we're not over the Alps, whatever. And I thought, well, we're good. I couldn't see anything, and I thought, well, we might be about to crash in a field. So I'm like getting ready for the brace position and everything else. And then at the last second, I saw the airport, and we'd come back to Yugoslavia. We'd come back to Serbia and landed back in the thing. And the story goes, basically, the engines were knackered. It shouldn't have really gone up or anything. And
Wow.
we all had to get off the plane. It turned out there was two English guys behind me who were clergymen. And just before we landed, one of them said, "Should we say a little prayer?" And I heard them say it, and I was like, "Oh, they're English." But yeah, when you're out of control like that, it's quite a moment. So anyway, look, I went on another little story there. Thanks for staying with me. There's the last. Let's let the last word there. Worrying means you suffer twice. Very profound. Worry doesn't help at all, does it? So I hope we've helped many people today. I'm really grateful to you two for joining me. Thank you so much. Thanks for instigating this, Vicky, and bringing the subject up and getting us moving, because that was excellent.
My pleasure.
Jenna, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to seeing you both again very, very soon. Keep up the amazing work.
All right.
Thank you.
Have an awesome weekend. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh,
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, I'll be doing a DJ mix to celebrate that tomorrow.
Nice.
Anyway, thank you so much, guys. See you soon. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.